why are there two kinds of light? One of those lights has to do with your sincerity to Allah and the genuineness of your faith that's inside of your heart, which only you know and Allah knows that. Nobody else can check it. The other light, as mentioned, comes from your right hand, and that light is actually a representation of the things that you and I did in this life. If you had good deeds, if you did good works, then those works are going to be the light inside you. So you've got these couple of torches on Judgment Day that are helping you navigate that are helping you move forward. And at the end of the day, all of this conversation has only one purpose. You and I want to stand up on that day, and we want to have some light in our hands so that we could navigate through the path. We want to be able to access that light so that we can make our way to Jannah. Our Messenger ﷺ would describe that light on Judgment Day that we are going to be raised with is not going to be same for everybody. There will be some people who barely have enough light. They can barely see their feet as they walk. There will be those who have so much light that it as though if you can see from one city to the next one. That's how much light you would have. And that depends on the strength and purity of our faith and the deeds that we have left behind. And so that's the reason that the parable of light is very important. So I just wanted to set the stage that Allah wanted us to understand the concept of light and how we have to preserve that light in ourselves, and we have to ensure that the investment is maintained and not killed before we make it before Allah on Judgment Day. Now these two parables that I want to share with you are actually not about light, they are about darkness. They are about two tragic cases of people who are not going to have light or who don't take advantage of the light that they have. And so I'll go through them one by one. Allah describes, وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَعْمَالُهُمْ كَسَرَابٍ بِقِيعَةٍ يَحْسَبُهُ الظَّمْآنُ مَاءً. Allah says, as for those who disbelieved, which can also be translated as those who buried away, meaning buried light away. So what about them? Well, they are like somebody traveling in the middle of the day in the desert, in the sarab, which means a mirage. And they see a sarab, which means a mirage. So a person is thirsty, lost in the desert, trying to find a place to survive, and you start seeing waves there, but there are no waves. Things get a watery looking in the distance, and that's a mirage. And because you are dying of thirst, you think that's worth something, and so يَحْسَبُهُ الظَّمْآنُ مَاءً. The desperately thirsty one run towards that water, thinking that it's water. حَتَّى إِذَا جَاءَهُ, until the point where he reaches it. لَمْ يَجِدْهَا شَيْئًا. He found nothing there. It was just sand. It was a false image. فَوَفَّاهُ حِسَابًا وَاللَّهُ سَرِيعُ الْحِسَابِ. And he will only find Allah there. He was looking for water, and Allah makes a strange turn in the example. Instead of finding water, he will find his master there. وَوَجَدَ اللَّهَ عِنْدَهَا فَوَفَّاهُ حِسَابًا. He will find Allah there, and Allah will complete his account there. Allah will give him what he deserves. وَاللَّهُ سَرِيعُ الْحِسَابِ. And Allah is quick in taking the audit. That's the first example. Now quickly to the second example, where it says, "Oh," another example. And this is going to be almost the opposite scene. First time when we were in a desert, now we are going to be in the ocean. He says in the Quran, كَظُلُمَاتٍ فِي بَحْرٍ. It's like layers on top of layers on top of layers of darkness out at sea. So we are not talking about the daytime now, we are talking about the nighttime. And the first example, it was clearly daytime, because you don't see a mirage at night. You only see it in the day. And now you're out at the sea, and you're covered in the layers of darkness. And then he says, كَظُلُمَاتٍ فِي بَحْرٍ لُجِّيٍّ. Lujiyin means an ocean which is not merciful, that won't let up. Like the waves are getting violent, and you're hoping that it was just one bad wave and things are going to calm down, but no. The waves keep getting worse and worse until yakshahu mawjun. A wave overtakes him. A wave so huge out in the middle of the sea that it crushes whatever vessel he's in, whatever boat or ship he's in. It's now underwater. And then min fawqihi mawj. On top of that wave that has already slammed you into the water is another wave, throwing you deeper inside. Min fawqihi sahab. And on top of that there are thunderstorm clouds. So Allah says that the waves are relentless and the storms not letting up either. And this person, that poor soul, is now being drawn into the depths of the sea, in the middle of the darkness. And at the end of that parable, what does he say? إِذَا أَخْرَجَ يَدَاهُ لَمْ يَكَدْ يَرَاهَا. You are all the way at the bottom of the sea. You can't even try and get up. You try to get up, and another wave comes and slams you down. That's the problem. You could try to swim your way up, but there's another wave on top. And so he says he's so much lost in the dark that when he takes his hand out, lam yakad yaraha. It's almost as if he can't see his own hands. وَمَنْ لَمْ يَجْعَلِ اللَّهُ لَهُ نُورًا فَمَا لَهُ مِنْ نُورٍ. Whoever Allah didn't give light to, how can they have any light? Whoever Allah didn't furnish any light, how could they have any light? Like I said in the beginning, these examples can be confusing. Your mind would be like, what does he mean by all of this? But I first want to paint this scene for you so that these two parables, these two examples, and what they mean in brief translation. So basically, in both of these cases, a person is not seeing what they're supposed to be, in both of them. One person is in the middle of the day, it's bright outside, and yet they see things that aren't there. They see a mirage, which is good as being as blind. You might as well be in the dark because what you see is not there. And in another case, somebody is in the dark, they will see there is not even moonlight because they are covered. It's covered by clouds. There's these waves. You're blinded, and another way. These are both sides of blindness. But why give two different sides of blindness? Because Allah is describing that on Judgment Day are going to be two kinds of unfortunate cases. So understand what is going in these two parables. There are people who assume that they are in light. There are people like that person out in the desert, surrounded by light, and you can't get brighter than the desert in the daytime, isn't it? So basically what happens is that you have people that look very spiritual, very religious, very enlightened, very committed to the faith on the outside, and they commit to those things that make them look that way. So clothing becomes very important, appearance becomes very important, pronouncing certain utterances become very important. All the things that people can perceive becomes very important. But there's something going inside you, like greed, like jealousy, like pride, anger, like hatred. You can't see somebody else succeed. It bothers you. You don't feel even a little bit of sympathy when you are being ruthless to the children in the family. You don't consider the people when you don't consider the people whose rights you're taking away, because it's all personal. Nobody's going to find out. It's not in front of people, so it doesn't matter. What's in front of people must look pristine, and what's going inside is ugly. It's dark. And these people assume that because they're doing good things, they are volunteering, they even grew out of beard, they put on the hijab on, they even memorize the Quran, etc. All the outside stuff is pretty good. They start assuming also that Allah is really going to reward me for all of this. I am doing pretty good, as opposed to this other person yourself, this other person who can't even recite the Fatiha, who can't even do X, Y, Z. You start comparing yourself because you think you're in the light. And that, by the way, that sense of superiority is probably the worst of all other vices I've mentioned. That pride is actually a replica of the pride of the devil. Why did he say I am superior? The sense of superiority. تِلْكَ الدَّارُ الْآخِرَةُ نَجْعَلُوهَا لِلَّذِينَ لَا يُرِيدُونَ عُلُوًّا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَلَا فَسَادًا وَلَا عَاقِبَةٌ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Allah says the next home that He built heaven, He made it for people who don't want to feel superior in this earth. They don't want to make themselves give the impression that somebody else is lesser compared to them. They don't want that. And there's sometimes among us, maybe ourselves, because of our religious knowledge, religious position, or religious perception of others, we do start thinking that we are better than somebody else. This is the first example. People who actually think they are in light and they are doing good, but you are like a person in the desert. You are going to die of dehydration. And when you get there, what you think is water, meaning you think that you are going to heaven, all you find is Allah there, who says actually you did everything on the outside, but there was no light inside. You don't get anything there. You don't get anything here. Allah is going to quickly take your account. You and I have to become people of self-examination. Whether or not people praise you and me or criticize you and me, it should meant nothing. You have to be able to ask yourself, If Allah was to ask me right now what I am doing is right or wrong, am I able to answer him? Because he's the only one I am going to be meeting at the end of the journey. On the other side of it, there's another darkness. But the other one is completely different, failed scenario. The other one is a scenario of someone, like I mentioned, in the dark, and they have been pushed into the darkness deeper and deeper. This is actually someone who is not in a good environment, who is not even around people who have strong faith. As a matter of fact, all the friends they have made them, all the friends they have made them even a worse person. And the situations they have put themselves in are pure evil. They are pure darkness, but they are addictive also. They keep going to the stuff, to those environments. They go to those friends. They go to those dark places, and they form all forms of addictions. Addictions to certain kinds of behavior, certain kinds of substances, and they can't let go of that entire scene. And what does Allah describe as these waves are coming and slamming you down, and you are all the way in the depths of the darkness. The powerful thing here in this parable is Allah actually gives hope to those people too. He didn't say when he's at the bottom of the sea, he can't even see his end. He said he can almost not see his end. Even in the depths of darkness, you could still kind of sort of see your hand. You know what that means? You still have some sense that this is wrong. I shouldn't be doing this. I know better. I know I need to change. I am giving into something inside me that's very animal. I am giving into something inside me that overtakes me, and I lose my connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And every time I dive in, that connection gets hurt more and more and more and more. But every time it gets hurt, there's less and less light. But there's still a tiny bit of light left inside you that still lets you see. The question that arises is, where is that light? That actually is the light that Allah put inside of you and me, inside of our house. He put it there. It's not some outside light. It's inside of you. And it's being dimmed away. It's being weakened. It's being covered by a lot of darkness. But it's still enough for you to see somewhat that you are doing something wrong. There's still hope in you. That light, Allah does not let it die. Even though it's in such a bad environment, it's still protected. It didn't blow out. It didn't get washed away. That's the light Allah protected inside of you and me. No matter how far gone we think we are, mistakes happen, sins happen, our hearts go in bad places, our hands go in dark directions, but Allah's mercy, what does He say at the end? وَمَنْ لَمْ يَجْعَلِ اللَّهُ لَهُ نُورًا فَمَا لَهُ مِنْ نُورٍ. How could they have forgotten any light if Allah didn't provide it? What is Allah saying here? Can you imagine? Where can light possibly come from in the middle of the ocean at the bottom? Allah is telling you and me, we give up on Him. He doesn't give up on us. We let Him go. He doesn't let us go. He keeps the hopes alive. He lets the ability for you to even feel bad, somewhat. That voice inside of you is that little bit of light left. But you could suffocate at that time too, and the next time too. But there's actually a limit. It's not limitless. It's not like Allah will keep your light alive at any cost. Allah mentions people who are dead already. They have no light left inside of them. Allah mentions about people whose hearts have turned into stone. If your heart is stone, then that means if there is light inside, it can't get out. It's dead. What happens to those people when they suffocate themselves? Knowingly they suffocate the light inside themselves. What happens to them? Allah says, زَيَّنَ لَهُمُ الشَّيْطَانُ أَعْمَالَهُم. You don't see it as bad anymore. You're no longer guilty. You don't even feel bad. You're actually now glorifying the sin that you're engaging in. You're glorifying the darkness. That's become beautiful to you. That's beyond hope. I pray Allah never let us fall into that. And sometimes we justify to ourselves. No, it's not that bad. I mean, it's messed up, but it's not that messed up. I mean, come on, I was in a tough situation. What do you expect me to do? You come in those situations. You start rationalizing yourself. But deep down inside of you, also, you know that you're lying to yourself. So at the end of the day, the most precious thing Allah gave us is that light. You know what the Quran is called? In the Quran, فَآمِنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ وَالنُّورِ الَّذِي أَنزَلْنَا وَاللَّهُ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ خَبِيرٌ. Believe in Allah and His Messenger and the light we send down. And Allah is fully aware of what you do. Allah calls the Quran light. He calls it light because my engagement with Allah's words, that's Allah talking to me, it's not just a book. It's not just something I recite. It's Allah talking to me. When Allah talks to me, then that light inside of me gets stronger. Because that itself is light. My iman will be restored. But that coming back to Allah's book can't be artificial. Today you and I approach it as a tool for argument, or we study it as a casual pastime. We don't think of it as a lifeline. It can't be just that I recite it and put it down. It can't be for that. It has to be, Ya Allah, I need light for myself. Give me light in your own words. There is a humble begging attitude of a slave with which I must come to Allah. And if you can develop that, then that light will not become dim. Allah will not let it become dim. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala connect us deeply our hearts to the Quran and maintain that source of light for us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala strengthen the light in our heart, and no matter how weak it's become. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also not make us delusional into thinking that the outwardly deeds that we do are going to compensate for the vices we carry inside of our hearts. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow all of us to cleanse our hearts to the best of our ability. بارك الله لي ولكم في القرآن العظيم ونفعني وإياكم بالآيات والذكر.